The first thing Elias Cade noticed about the alien palace was the silence. Not the peaceful kind. The kind that pressed against the eardrums, thick and deliberate as if the air itself were listening. The floor beneath his boots shimmered like liquid obsidian, reflecting a ceiling so high it disappeared into a soft violet glow. Towering pillars curved inward like the ribs of some colossal creature, and between them hung banners woven from threads that looked almost alive, gently pulsing with bioluminescent light. Elias swallowed. He had survived asteroid pirates, corporate wars, and 3 years on a mining colony that forgot what sunlight looked like. None of that prepared him for standing alone in the throne hall of the Volari Dominion, the most feared psychic empire in the quadrant. Just don't think anything stupid, he told himself. A bitter thought followed immediately. Easier said than done. At the far end of the hall, a figure waited on a raised dais. Queen Nyxera of Velar. She sat on a throne grown, not built, from crystalline matter that resembled both bone and glass. Her form was tall and elegant, her skin a deep shade of iridescent midnight blue, scattered with faint silver markings that shifted slowly like constellations. A crown-like crest swept back from her temples, and her eyes, those impossible eyes, glowed softly, pale gold with star-shaped pupils. She was beautiful in a way that unsettled him. Not gentle beauty. Dangerous beauty. The guards flanking the hall stood motionless, armored forms with elongated helms and weapons that hummed with contained energy. Elias was acutely aware that one wrong move, or thought, could end him. He reached the foot of the dais and stopped as protocol demanded. Human Elias Cade, a voice echoed, not aloud but inside his skull. Smooth. Calm. Intimate. You stand before the sovereign mind of Velar. State your purpose. Elias forced himself to speak out loud, grounding his thoughts in sound. I was sent as a diplomatic liaison, he said. The Terran coalition seeks peaceful trade and hopefully you don't decide to rip my mind apart, his inner voice finished. The queen's lips curved into a faint smile. I heard every word, human. His heart slammed against his ribs. He hadn't spoken that. Silence stretched, heavy and merciless. Elias felt heat crawl up his neck. The queen rose from her throne, descending the steps with unhurried grace. Each step echoed softly as if the palace itself acknowledged her presence. You thought, Nyxera said gently, that I might tear your mind apart. She stopped a few feet from him. That was discouraging. Elias's mouth went dry. Why, you can read thoughts? She tilted her head, studying him like a fascinating specimen. All Volari are telepaths. And more so. Your kind's thoughts are loud. Undisciplined. Great, Elias thought. I'm mentally naked. Nyxera's smile deepened. An accurate assessment. He clenched his fists, then deliberately slowed his breathing. Panic would only make things worse. If you can hear everything I think, he said carefully, then diplomacy seems difficult. On the contrary, Nyxera replied. It makes deception impossible. I find honesty refreshing. She circled him slowly, her presence brushing against his mind like silk and electricity. He felt flashes of emotion that weren't his: curiosity, amusement, something sharper beneath. You are not afraid in the way most humans are, she observed. I am absolutely afraid, Elias said. I'm just used to it. That made her pause. Interesting. She stopped in front of him again. Your species fascinates us. You lack telepathy, yet your minds are resilient. Chaotic. Creative. Stubborn, Elias thought. Yes, she agreed. That too. A soft laugh escaped her, melodic and unsettling. With a subtle gesture, the guards withdrew, leaving them alone in the vast hall. Elias's instincts screamed that this was not safer. You were not chosen randomly, Nyxera continued. Your psychological profile indicated an unusual resistance to psychic pressure. So I'm bait, Elias muttered. She raised an eyebrow. You are a bridge. That night, if the passage of time could even be called night on Velar, Elias was given quarters overlooking a city that glowed like a constellation spilled across the ground. Towers rose in elegant spirals, connected by shimmering energy paths. The sky above swirled with violet clouds and distant stars. He sat on the edge of a bed that molded itself to his shape, rubbing his temples. This is insane. He hears everything. Almost immediately, a familiar presence brushed his thoughts. Not everything, Nixer's voice corrected gently. I give you privacy when you request it. Elias froze. I didn't request it. He thought it, she replied. Very loudly. He exhaled slowly. Then, please. Some privacy. The pressure receded like a tide pulling back. He sagged in relief. Over the following days, Elias was summoned repeatedly, not to negotiate trade routes or tariffs but to talk. Nixer asked him about Earth. About music. About humor. About why humans created stories where they imagined beings more powerful than themselves falling in love, failing or dying. Because power without vulnerability isn't interesting, Elias said once, before he could stop himself. Her eyes had lingered on him long after that. In turn he learned about the Volari. A species evolved around shared consciousness, where lies were nearly impossible and individuality existed in subtle shades rather than sharp edges. Their queen was not merely a ruler but an anchor, a psychic nexus that stabilized billions of minds. It is lonely, Nixera admitted one evening, her voice unusually quiet. To hear everyone always. To never be surprised. Elias surprised himself by saying, except by humans. She smiled. Except by you. The middle weeks were the hardest. The Terran coalition grew nervous at the lack of formal progress. Volari nobles questioned why their queen spent so much time with a single human. Whispers crept through the shared consciousness. Concern, suspicion, fear. And beneath it all, something dangerous began to grow between Elias and Nixera. He tried not to think about how close she stood. About the warmth of her presence in his mind. About the way her voice softened when she spoke to him alone. This is a terrible idea, he told himself one evening as they stood on a balcony overlooking the city. Yes, Nixera said, resting her hands on the railing beside his. It is. He winced. Sorry. Do not apologize, she said. I find your thoughts sincere. I think about you too much. She inhaled sharply. For the first time her psychic presence flared, uncontrolled raw emotions spilling through. Surprise. Longing. Fear. Elias turned to her. Nixera. She straightened, regaining composure. You must be careful, she said. If my council senses emotional instability, they'll remove you? Elias asked quietly. They will replace me, she corrected. For the good of the Dominion. The weight of that settled heavily between them. The crisis came suddenly. A Volari war faction, fearing human influence, launched a psychic assault, not on Elias's body but his mind. It struck while he slept, a tidal wave of alien consciousness meant to shatter him as an example. Elias screamed, bolting upright as reality fractured. Memories blurred. Thoughts echoed back at him, magnified and distorted. Then silence. Nixera stood within his mind. Not a projection. Not a whisper. She had entered fully, wrapping his consciousness in her own like a shield. Enough, she commanded, her psychic voice resonating across the Volari network. The assault ceased instantly. Elias collapsed, gasping. Nixera knelt beside him physically moments later, her composure shattered. She cradled his head, her touch trembling. They tried to kill you, she said. Through me. Elias laughed weakly. Guess diplomacy really is dangerous. Her eyes burned with resolve. This ends now. The next day the entire Dominion watched as Queen Nixera addressed them, not through shared thought but aloud, her voice broadcast across every world. For the first time, she declared, I have chosen to limit my reach. to experience the unknown. The Valari fear this because it changes us. She looked directly at Elias, standing beside her. But growth always does. She announced an unprecedented accord, a shared mind protocol between humans and Valari volunteers, limited and consensual. A bridge between species, not domination. Then she did something no Valari ruler had ever done. She stepped down from the psychic throne. A successor was named to maintain the network. Nixer chose individuality. Months later, Elias stood on a Terran Valari station, watching stars slide past the viewport. Nixera stood beside him, no longer queen but still unmistakably herself. "Do you regret it?" he asked. She smiled softly. "I hear fewer voices now. But the ones I keep matter." He thought, not carefully this time. "I love you." She laughed, warm and real. "I know," she said. "You never learned how to think quietly." And for once, Elias didn't mind being heard.